Hey everybody, Riot Mort here, and it is time. 2 weeks have passed since the launch of Magic and Mayhem, and it is time for the patch 14.16 rundown. Now, we launched the set, and generally it's been pretty good. There's a really good base in there, a lot of fun origins and champions, and the charms have landed really well as well. That being said, some augments and a few champions definitely out of line. Syndra, sorry, a little cold today. But, you know, that's what the first patch is here for. We're here to make some adjustments and get the patch in an even better spot. And the nice thing is, when you have a really solid base of a really good set, a couple balance changes is easy versus like having to giant rework and stuff like that. So overall, feeling pretty good. Let's not keep you waiting. Let's jump into it and go over all the changes. First up, on the system side, all those golems you see, whether it be through the portals, whether it be through the augments, those golems are beefy. They are doing a lot, and all those golems are pretty much overpowered. So we're going to be nerfing all the golems. AD is going to go down from 65 to 55. Base HP is going to go down from 600 to 550. Now keep in mind, support golem has the 250 health from the support items, so support golems are still pretty beefy here. And then their ability damage is also going down. Honestly, they're still going to be really good. But they won't quite be maybe, 57, 58% top 4 rates. Hopefully this brings them down. But expect them to still be pretty good here. All right, traits. Blaster. I think this is a pretty small change. But when blasters are not in their damage amp state at 2 and 4, they're going to be a bit stronger. So this is like at the start of a fight before they've cast. Or if there's a bigger than 3-second window, they'll be a little stronger here. And then 4 blaster will go from 45 to 50. So 4 blaster will be a little stronger. That being said, I played a lot of blaster on PBE. They seem okay. Hui's okay. If you can get 6 blaster, it's still pretty good, but there also weren't any buffs at 6. So yeah, but who knows? Maybe it'll help Varus out a bit. Fairy vertical has definitely been struggling a bit. You'd play 2 for that item. It's like a free item for your Callista. Otherwise, you don't really play it. So 4 and 6 is going to get a buff. 4 is going to get this. The damage item is going to get their damage amp buffed at 4 and 6. And then if you have 6, you have the armor, and the armor is going to be more powerful. More healing and shielding, more HP, and more healing from the queen, the one wearing the crown. So hopefully this helps Fairy a bit to be in a bit of a better spot. Frost, very light touch here. 1 AD and AP at 3, 5 at 5, 7, and 9. So vertical frost getting a pretty chunky buff here. I think this actually makes 5 and 7 frost quite a bit better. So definitely check that out. Preserver definitely, it's like right below the S tier stuff, but Preserver is a very powerful trait, really flexible. It's getting its healing nerfed at all levels, and its mana gain nerfed at 4 and 5. Still very good from what we've seen. That being said, there is a change here where Preserver ticks while a unit is mana-locked will now grant that mana after the mana lock ends. So this is one of those nice quality of life things where if you would have got a tick beforehand of, let's say 12 mana, but you were mana-locked, you'd lose it. This will fix it. So a bit of a quality of life change there. But overall, this should be a nerf to Preserver, but very light. From what we've seen, still very good. I expect you'll see some Preserver Wukong still doing quite well. Scholar's going to get buffed to 6 and 12. Does it change much? We'll see. But hopefully it helps Scholar out a bit. And then Warrior. Warrior's another one here. You don't really see much beyond 2 Warrior. You'll see a lot of Gwen Fioras or Katarina +1s or Neela Akalis, but you don't really see a lot of 4 and 6. So 4 and 6 is going to get a buff. 4, just 2% damage amp and Omnivamp. 6, 5%. Honestly, we'll see if it makes a difference, but, I'm sure some of you are looking at this going, Fairy and Warrior, that must mean Katarina, so hopefully Katarina can be playable. On the small side, Bastion 6 and 8 are going to get a buff. 5 more Armor and MR at 6, 10 more Armor and MR at 8. Again, minor stuff. And then the other one here is, it felt really weird to have this Chrono Stop, this 2.5-second stun, which feels like crowd control. And then you'd have a Quicksilver, and you're like, why is it still working? It's very weird. It's very unintuitive. So we decided to change it so that if you're immune to CC, you are immune to CC. So, yeah. So Quicksilver, maybe a better item here as well. 4 Chrono, 6 Chrono, small bit of a nerf here. But Yeah, it makes more intuitive sense. All right, on the 1-cost side, Jace 3 gets a very small AD ratio buff, so if you want to invest in Jace 3, a spell will hit a little harder. Cool. Lilia, bit of a buff for Lilia and for Fairy and early stuff like that. 10 off the mana, so cool, buff for Lilia. Seraphine and Soraka, 2 of probably the worst champions in the set right now. That being said, even though they're bad, they are getting some connected buffs. Soraka can do well in Sugarcraft. We don't want to over-buff everything. And with obviously a lot of the best stuff being nerfed later, we don't want to go too hard. That being said, they get a little bit here. So Seraphine, going to get 10 more mana off her cast. And Soraka getting about an 8%, close to 10% spell damage buff. So they'll hit a little harder. And then Warwick, this poor guy, there's such a fun dream in there. If you can get his attack speed ramped up, it should be a lot of fun, but it's just never really paying off. So getting a pretty small buff here at 1 and 2 star, but pretty sizable one at 3 star here. So if you can get Warwick to work, go for it. I know Vampiric Scepter's pretty good. From what we've seen, it's pretty good and falls off, but if you can start like 2-1 with a Vampiric Scepter and a Warwick 2, pretty good start for you. So pretty skeptical it'll be S tier or anything like that, but hopefully this makes him playable. So, yeah. All right, 2 costs. Well, good thing there haven't been any problematic 2 costs this patch. Ari is going to get a small buff here. Pretty small. You can see here it's only like 5 base spell damage on the main, about a 10% on the true damage coming back. But Ari spell is also already pretty hard to hit as is. That being said, there's an Ari Zoe build that's doing very well. I imagine this will be pretty good. Galio gets to be tanky. This will help out Portal. This will help out Mage. So Galio gets to be a little bit tankier. Kassadin, probably the surprise of the PBE. I think near the end of PBE, people started figuring out how to play Kassadin, and once they did, he was very strong. There were some predictions that he was going to be like SS tier, but he couldn't quite live up to the Syndra hype. That being said, he does need a bit of a nerf. So he's going to get a bit less stacking damage. And then the shield is probably the bigger hit here, losing pretty close to a little more than 10% here, almost 20% at 3 star. So pretty big shield nerf for Kassadin. He shouldn't feel quite so tanky. That being said, I think he's still strong from what we've tested on PBE. He's still very, very strong. So don't underestimate him. Don't look at this and go nerf unplayable. I think he'll actually still do just fine. Kog'Maw. Kog'Maw 3, there was a little too much power in Kog'Maw 3's spell, especially when you compared him to other hunters. So Kog'Maw is going to get his spell nerfed. Pretty small nerf at 1 star, bigger nerf at 2, and pretty chunky nerf at 3 star. So Kog'Maw, not quite as strong. Plus, the thing to remember is Kog'Maw provides a lot of utility to his team. He's meant to be sort of next to the Jinx, powering that up, or a nice secondary carry. So won't be quite as strong here and should actually be less strong than the 3-cost Jinx, hopefully. So, all right, and that's it for 2-cost, right? Nah, JK. Shyvana is getting a slight adjustment that should be a bit of a buff here. The spell will scale a bit better with AP and a bit less with HP. And the thing is, by the way, Shyvana was not meant to be a tank. Shyvana is meant to be sort of a magic fighter. It's going to have Bloodthirster, Crown Guard being really good items. Bloodthirster, Crown Guard, Warmogs is a really good combo. So we changed the class to Magic Fighter to hopefully make those better. And then Syndra. Yeah, let's talk about Syndra. Look, we want to be really thorough here. We do not need Syndra dominating the meta for another patch. So we're going pretty hard here. The first one to talk about is actually the cast time. This is the biggest change. Her cast time, due to a change that went in at the last minute that probably shouldn't have, her cast time was 0.3 seconds, which is not standard. Every other champion is 1 second. Like, that's normal for every champion in the game. Syndra should have been 1 second. What this did is this is why you're seeing attack speed items be so much better on her than like mana items, is because she could just plow through and keep on attacking. This was not intended. So this is the biggest nerf there. That being said, on top of that, she is doing too much damage. So base damage is going to go down about 10%, splash damage as well. And then her scaling is going to get hit as well. So this will hopefully make her feel a lot closer to intended. We've seen her definitely not be the free win that she is on live on PBE, but we have also seen her still do well if you get her early and get her stacking with like a Shojin's and a Nashor's. So don't underestimate her and think her she's dead, but she's definitely not the better than 2-star 4 cost that she is on live. In the world where this isn't enough, I'd be shocked, but, I also know people are pretty sick of Syndra, so we'll keep an eye on it. But again, the cast time here is the biggest change because all the attack speed versions are going to get hit in the teeth with this one. So, all right, Katarina. Katarina feels like one of the 3 costs that's really hard to play. She's getting a buff, and yes, this means she's getting a buff. Warrior 4 and 6 is getting a buff. Fairy 4 and 6 is getting a buff. Yup, that's true. Will it make her meta? Hopefully. Will it make her S tier? Probably not. So give her a try, though. We've definitely seen some Katarinas doing well here. Wukong. I think this buff is going to be a little surprising to people, but the big thing to call out here, it is mostly a 1-star buff. You can see 50 shield at 1-star, 20 at 2-star, 0 at 3-star. If you told me the 3-star was actually supposed to be nerfed a little, I'd believe you. That being said, it's not like Wukong is dominating or anything like that. But he did need the buff at 1-star and 2-star, so he is going to get those. Like I said, it wouldn't surprise me if there's a follow-up nerf on 3-star later. But we want Wukong to be the champion that if you get out of an orb at 2-1, you're like, yes, let's go. Solid early game. But he should fall off compared to like a Vex 3 with traits, or a Swain 3 with traits, or a Nico 3 with traits. He's supposed to have a lower cap, higher start, lower cap, and so that's why we're buffing the 1 and 2-star. So, all right, 4 cost, Karma. Karma's ability was a pretty neat design, but it was frankly a bit overloaded, and a lot of people would read the tooltip and go, huh? I don't get it. A lot, if not most of our players barely even realized she had a heal. We like her damage high, but we removed the heal. The heal was very confusing. It would work with certain builds really, really well, and other builds not at all. The fact it was proximity healing was very confusing. So she loses the heal. If you want her to heal, build a Gunblade. So, yeah. But her damage is still just as good, so she should be fine. Rise gets a small buff here. May need more later. I know Rise is struggling on live. This is a very small buff, but we'll keep an eye on Rise. But he is getting a buff. Tom Kench, really, really powerful champion. A lot of people play him in Arcana comps. He's like probably the best itemless champion to put in your comp. But if you invest him as a tank, it feels pretty bad. So he's getting 50 HP. Varus, this one's, we'll see how this one lands. But for now, Varus is going to get his channel time reduced. I still think there's a lot of work to do with the spell. The number of times you hit like a solo tank, or, it just feels like you whiff. There's still work to do here. But for now, this should at least let him go back to auto-attacking. He often has really strong AD items. So at least you can get back to those autos and get those to hit. So even if the spell whiffs, you'll still get those. Again, we'll keep an eye on things like Rise and Varus. Didn't want to swing too hard, but Varus should get a little better here. And then last is Briar. Briar just a little underperforming for where we want her. Obviously, everything feels like it's underperforming compared to Syndra, but even for Briar, we wanted 5 extra AD so that if you invest in that Briar, hit that Briar too, she can be quite strong. So a few people are saying, why no Olaf buff? Remember, we did buff Frost. Frost is the buff that Olaf received. Don't want to swing too hard. All right, on the item side, Dragon Claw and Dragon Will. If you compare these items to the Anima Visage, frankly, they were overlapping too hard. And Dragon's Claw, when you look at it and the amount of stats it was giving, was over budget. Dragon Claw really is just too good. So we are nerfing Dragon Claw's healing and Dragon Will's max HP. We like that the Radiant has that heal. That's okay. It's a unique thing. But, Dragon's Claw is getting a bit of a nerf here. Blacksmith's Gloves, losing its base HP a little bit. It's a very powerful item. Doesn't need that much base HP. Mogul's Mail, same thing. This item is very, very good. 50 HP off. And then Needlessly Big Gem quickly became the best support item in the game. It's going to lose that 5% damage amp from its start and max. Should still be good, but yeah. All right, augments, page 1 of 4. Yes, augments, like I said, there's a lot of really cool, fun augments this set, but the balance on them, a little off. So a lot of big augment changes here. Let's run through them. Silver augments, beggars can be choosers. This is a very fun augment now that gives 7 gold. The way you need to think of this is very similar to like 1s, 2s, 3s. You're mostly taking it for the 7 gold. It's like a 7 gold silver, but you get 4 augment rerolls, and you can use that to kind of force some stuff. I actually managed to pull it off on PBE. So pretty good for a silver now. Should make it better. Yeah. Find Your Center, no longer offered on 2-1. Just wasn't very good on 2-1. And then bonus HP has been buffed. Item Collector, little OP for a silver. Now 5 HP per item. You still get the rest of the stats. Keepers, probably due for a nerf for a while. Gets a nerf. 1, 2, 3, little over our gold. So we're removing one of the 1-cost champions, bringing it down 1 gold. On the house, this augment was bad. There wasn't a number to really buff it without making it become this really tedious thing where you're supposed to buy every 1 cost and sell them to get the gold. So on the house is removed. Restart Mission gives you an extra 2-star 2 cost. I think this augment's going to be great for a silver now if you're willing to take it. And then Robe Rejuvenation, 1% more base Omnivamp. Cool. That's it for silver. On to gold. Arcane Conduit. This is the Arcana augment. This one was not very fun, not very good, and way too hard to play. It's been removed. Avenge the Fallen gets a small buff. Once 3 people die, you'll get even more base stats. Built Different is now exclusive with 2 tanky. Built Different plus 2 tanky is just way too good, much like Double Trouble before. Caramelized Comforts. This is the Sugarcraft trait augment. Gets a buff of 10 HP per item and another 2% gold chance per item. We literally just tested this on PBE. It's pretty fun once you get it going. 60% chance to drop a gold with a 3-item carry. Pretty fun. Clockwork Accelerator. This is going to tick much quicker. Backloaded augments are typically pretty weak right now. That being said, this is a big buff to this augment. Whatever you had at 20 seconds, you'll now have it 15 seconds. So very large buff here. We'll see if it makes a difference. But again, backloaded augments are always a little rough. Draconic Mastery. This is the dragon trait augment that was basically impossible to play and kind of really poorly worded. Has been removed. Endless Hunt. This augment was not very good. This augment required you to... Hunters already have to get a kill to get their AD. You had to keep getting kills to snowball off of that. And so if you were behind it all, this augment was terrible. So Endless Hunt has now been reworked to be called Hunting Frenzy. It will now give hunters an execute below 12%, and they gain 10% attack speed. So the execute will allow them to get their proc, which will allow them to get their AD and hopefully help them out. So give it a try. Eternal Growth Plus, 40 HP less, just a little too good early. Explosive Growth Plus, this is the one on 4-2, 1 more XP per turn for 4 turns. Fast Forward, I believe this is the Chrono one, will give you more attack speed. Cool. Fortune Favors the Bold. This augment right now, I believe, has the highest win rate in the game, even higher than Golden Egg. Probably not correct. So Fortune Favors the Bold. 8 and 10 lost cash outs have been nerfed even more. If you want to really win with this augment, we want you to have 11 lost or higher. 10 lost should be like a top 4. 9 and 8, it should feel like a normal augment. So the 8 to 10 loss has been nerfed. And some of the 13 and 14 lost cash outs, if you can get to if you hit the 13 or 14, we want you to win the game. Like, that's probably a win. So, yeah. Flexible has been nerfed. Instead of getting an emblem every stage, it'll only be the first 3 stages, meaning you only get 3 emblems from Flexible. High Horsepower. This is the Lilia hero augment. Easily the worst performing hero augment in the game. Now gets a bunch more attack speed and more ability damage amp. Keep in mind, she also got that mana buff. Will all of this combined make enough? We'll see. We'll see. All right. On to Higher Education. This is the Mage one. The mana spend required to proc it has gone down. Or no, this is a Scholar one. Excuse me. The mana spend required to proc it has gone down. The attack speed has gone up. Cool. Item Collector 2, again, too strong. Gets nerfed. Keepers should be colored red, not green. That's a nerf. Molten Caramel. This is the Rumble hero augment. This gets buffed. More Omnivamp, more ability damage. Should be good. Pilfer, really fun augment, really good. Doesn't need 4 starting gold. Going to take that away for now. Will still probably be a very good augment. I can't imagine this puts it in a bad place. Probably still one of the better 2-1 augments. Practice Partners. This is the Mage one, giving 5 mana now instead of 4. Press the Attack. Again, apparently I'm colorblind and can't make colors the right thing. This should be red. This is a nerf. Press the attack getting nerfed for multi-strikers. It's already a very good augment. Row Rejuvenation 2, small 1% Omnivamp buff. Cool. Okay, School Mascot. This is another very powerful augment that's been doing really well. It no longer has a death cap, so it's losing the second item. It's losing the death cap. So when you see this number as a buff, remember that it just lost a death cap, which is 50% AP, 20% extra damage amp. That's gone. But that would have made it too weak, so the HP goes back up to 10%, the AP goes to 30%. But again, this is a very large nerf to School Mascot. Spellblades, this gets a bit of a nerf. Very good in the Zoe comp. Honestly, good in a bunch of other comps as well. But Spellblade's getting nerfed. Support Golem, no longer offered on 2-1. This is meant to be a nerf. Support Golem is very, very powerful on 2-1. We're purposely saying, nope, you've got to wait for it when the golems don't make quite as big a difference. Sweet Tooth, going to lose 100 bonus HP. Honestly, Sweet Tooth is still probably going to be a very good hero augment. I can't imagine this moves the needle too much. Three's a Crowd, going to get buffed. Hopefully it helps some 3-cost reroll comps have that augment. Trait Tracker. Trait Tracker was meant to be a high-risk augment that you're like, you have to figure out the comp, put it together. But it turns out when you get it with Flexible, it's like, guess I win? So they're now mutually exclusive. You cannot get Trait Tracker and Flexible together. All right, page 4. Too Healthy. 2-cost reroll doing very good right now. It's going to lose 10 HP here. Yeah. Vertically Inclined, a little weak, so it's getting a buff, and will no longer offer it on 2-1 when it's bad. So you'll get it later, not earlier. Witchy Wallop, this is the Poppy hero augment, damage up. And the time between wallops is going to go down, so it'll look smoother, it'll feel smoother, and is technically a buff. Worth the Wait. This is the one that gives you a bunch of 1-costs. The turn delay will be a little later, so you'll get your 3-star 1-cost even sooner. Now on to Prismatic. Anger Issues. This is the fun Ginsu's. Lots of Ginsu's one. We like this augment. It falls off way too hard. It's going to give you 5 more armor and MR per Ginsu's. So you can actually have a front line with this. Hopefully that'll help. Assassin's Toolbox now grants a Prowler's Claw. Yes, apparently we got rid of Prowler's Claw and it's now a Claw. It's definitely not a typo. But it used to give that and then a Gold Collector 3 turns later. Instead, it's going to give you that and an Infinity Edge right away. Those 2 items synergize really well and you get them early. So hopefully this should be a buff to the augment. Work really well on some of those frontline, like the Neela, the Akali, stuff like that. At What Cost was giving 16 bonus XP. That's going to go down to 8. Probably didn't need 16. Dark Alley Dealings. This is the one that gives you the trench coat. It's going to be delayed only 3 turns now, so that's going to go down. Giant and Mighty. This is one of our new generic combat augments that just gives HP, a lot of HP. It's going to lose 25 off the base. Immovable Object, another really good generic combat augment that gives 70 armor and MR to the team. That's going to go down a bit because it makes that item so much better. Prismatic Ticket, chance to proc has gone down and no longer offered on 4-2. Hopefully the no longer offered on 4-2 is a buff. This one's questionable, but we'll keep an eye on it. Support Golem 2, same as Support Golem 1, no longer offered on 4-2. That's meant to be a nerf. And then the last one here. So What the Forge has some of the worst stats we've ever seen in an augment. It's really, really, really bad. A lot of people don't know how to play all the artifacts. You get random artifacts. You don't have a ton of control. Oh yeah, Support Golem should say 2-1, by the way, not 4-2. Oops, that's a typo. But What the Forge, we're going to take a stab here. We buffed it up pretty heavily. That being said, it might still be bad, but we really didn't want to remove the fun for people who really like playing with all the artifact combinations. So we want to see if we can get this augment to be a little bit better. That being said, if it's still bad here, we might just have to cut it. So, all right, small augments. Yes, that's right. A 5th bonus page of augment changes. Bastion Crowns getting buffed will now grant a Shen. Blaster Crowns getting buffed will now grant an Ezreal. Is that a buff if Ezreal's bad? Scholar Crown will now get a buff and grant a Bard and a better item, Spear of Shojin, instead of Guardbreaker. And Blossoming Lotus will no longer be offered on 2-1 when it was weak. So Blossoming Lotus, still a good augment, just comes on lane later. All right, Charms. So with this patch, we're going to add 4 new charms. And who knows, we might keep adding new charms every patch. Charms, like I said, are a pretty fun mechanic. They've landed really, really well. So let's talk about the 4 new charms. The first one's called Copycat. 1 gold, stage 2 and 3. Get a 1-star copy of the first enemy unit to die next combat. So you kill a 1 cost, you break even. You kill a 3 cost, sweet, plus 2 gold. Good stuff. Ironclad Spirit and Mystic Spirit. These are some late game combat augments. If you need some armor or some MR based on who you're facing and you know you're facing them, you can give your whole team some armor and MR. Good stuff. And then Spawn Swarm. This is 4 gold on stage 5+. Your first 2 front row units spawn a Voidling after death. So if you wanted that, cool. Back row Star. This is the one that gives 1 back row unit 40% attack speed. It's been buffed down to 2 gold. Desperate Plea. I'm sure a lot of people are happy to see this. Desperate Plea is being removed. That being said, I do want to call out it will likely be back in some form. I'm not ready to talk about what that form is. I think we have a rework we're pretty happy with. But for now, it's going away. Enhance. This is getting buffed down to 1 gold. Okay, Gear Swap. So Gear Swap is the one, by the way, that would give you a Remover and Reforger temporary for 0 gold. We've removed that, but I'll fast forward to the line later. We replaced it with Tinker, which will give you a Remover and Reforger for 0 gold all game. So basically, there's no such thing as a temporary Remover and Reforger. You can just get a Remover and Reforger. This should just be a net buff if you like getting a Remover and Reforger. So no one should be sad about Gear Swap being removed. Minor Gambit, if you win, only getting +1 gold felt lame. You get +2 gold. Sweet. Phantom Emblem, this one's being buffed down to 6 gold. Shivanate, this augment is silly. It was meant to be silly, but having to wait until stage 3 before you could get it makes it pretty bad. It was like literally only good on 3-1. So now it's offered in stages 2 and 3. I think it will now be a very powerful charm into like stage 2. So expect to see this bought a lot. Summon Dragon, this is a very powerful charm. It's going to do less damage by about 10%. This is a 10% damage nerf. All of its damage is based off its AD, so that will be nerfed. Might have to go harder. We'll see. The Star, this is one of the Xerath charms. This is being nerfed up to 7 gold. Tinker, we already talked about, is now 0G and is offered all game. And Treasure Party is being buffed down to 6 gold. So, like I said, expect to see us make these kind of adjustments throughout the rest of the set. And who knows, more new charms, right? New charms will be fun. Cool. Hyper Roll, for players who like Hyper Roll. Dummies and Golems level up 1 stage later. For those of you that play Hyper Roll and would get to level 10 and have to fight 4-star dummies and 4-star golems when they're that strong, if you've ever seen an augment with a 40% win rate, go play I'm the Carry Now in Hyper Roll. It was pretty silly. So big nerf to those. They needed it. I'm the Carry Now also has had its stat multipliers adjusted to power up later. So yeah, that augment had like a 38, 39% win rate. It's being nerfed. Frost Soldier bonus health now scales properly, so Frost won't be as OP in Hyper Roll either. And then All That Shimmers Plus, a Golden Quest, and Upgraded Adventure no longer appear. Yes, you're not getting 162 gold in Hyper Roll, turns out. Isn't that crazy? All right, and then bug fixes. Multiple augments have had their descriptions updated to use the new damage amp stat. Sweet. Fixed cases where Gwen could fail to cast and then be stuck for several seconds. Thank God. Hopefully Gwen is now exciting and fun to play now. Sweet. Callista no longer throw extra spears on her first attack each combat. Good. I like it when champs work good. Portal effects no longer miss when an allied Krug is the only unit alive. Cool. 2 ranged units with tiny but deadly will no longer fail to attack each other. That's great. Placing Thieves' Gloves on a unit with a hero augment no longer removes the buff from them. There you go. So for some of you who are experiencing like your Deja losing the attack range, that was why. That's been fixed. Accomplice Gloves now correctly counts as 2.5 items for the purpose of strongest unit. Yumi can no longer spawn on the enemy side of the board and eat the unit in that slot. Yumi now correctly attaches to a new unit on combat start if her host was sold. Fixed a bug where frost statues could fail to spawn or spawn with incorrect health. It was possible to have them spawn with like exactly 1 health if they spawned on the wrong tick. That's been fixed. The Assassinate charm now properly shows a stealth effect on the unit that will leap during combat. This one's great because you click it and you're like, who's going to jump? Now it's very clear. The Bunch of Belts charm now properly makes champions larger when they're equipped with the effects of Giant's Belt. Get it? Giant's Belt. In Hyper Roll, Scuttles on stage 8 are no longer massive. Sweet. And the Overachiever's Portal will now properly show all charms a stage earlier than normally possible. So, and there you go. That's a patch. It's a pretty sizable patch. Like I said, a lot of augments, a lot of champions. If there's something you feel like we missed, let us know. But again, we also don't want to swing everything too crazy. But obviously, like the Syndra nerf is going to make a big change to the meta. Karma losing the healing, Kassadin nerf, stuff like that, as well as some buffs elsewise. So it's definitely going to be a very different meta. The augments should hopefully be more balanced. But again, the goal on the other side is a even better meta where you feel like you can play a lot more things. So yeah, there you go. All right, and that is it for this patch. That's it for this patch. Next patch, there'll be some cool stuff. Patch after that, there'll be some even more cool stuff. I'm spending so much of my time in Futureland. Yeah, so good stuff. All right, that's going to do it for me. Until next time, take it easy.